we had the spectacle of the welfare bill possibly being voted against by a number of Rebel MPs, nearly 130, to stop the government putting through cuts that would kill people. But on Friday, Liz Kendall decided to have a little compromise with these MPs. This is what she said in her interviews on this.
Well, the changes that we are introducing will make sure existing claimants are unaffected, but we also all agree that there do need to be changes in future to make sure that people who can work do so, we protect those who can't, but that we make the welfare state sustainable for the future.
This is a part of the letter that she wrote to MPs to try and get these Rebel MPs on her side, saying that she wasn't going to make all the cuts that she had proposed, and it says here, we have listened to colleagues who support the principle of reform but are worried about the impact of the pace of change on those already supported by the system. We recognise the proposed changes have been a source of uncertainty and anxiety. Therefore, we will ensure that all of those currently receiving PIP will stay within the current system. The new eligibility requirements will be implemented from November 2026 for new claims only. So that's to me is the standout thing. She's saying that if you have a disability before November 2026, you will be eligible for benefit. If you don't have a disability before then you won't get any. Now, I've got 4 people who've agreed to come and speak about this proposed amendment, which to me is absolutely disgraceful and unprincipled, and surely just a way of trying to buy MPs. The first person to come and speak is Fingers. That's a name as an activist. How you doing, Fingers?
I'm good, thanks, Crispin. You?
I'm okay. I mean, I probably haven't made a very good introduction to this, but I just can't get my head around the fact they're saying that people who were disabled before November 2026 can get a benefit, and people who aren't disabled before then can't. What's your take on this?
Well, as an example, I mean, imagine you got cancer at 60 and you've got full PIP and everything else. Now, imagine getting the same cancer at 25 and the day after November and you get nothing. I mean, it is ludicrous. But having said that, the whole thing is it was being pushed through because, and everybody says this, the government says this, everybody says this, because there was an urgent need to find this £5 billion, right? And the government can frame it as it likes, but they're now saying that it must be done because we need the money, which incidentally Liz Kendall has already spent. So if it was so urgent to push it through to save £5 billion, and that is the reason they have not allowed an OBR assessment to be done beforehand, and that they have not consulted with disability charities, and I will read you an email to prove that in a minute. If it was so urgent to do that, now it's down to a measly 1.8 billion, which is simply pocket change, really. Why are they still pushing it through? They have no need to. They could do the OBR assessment. They could delay it. They have not. They have consulted with the Disability Charities Consortium, but the Disability Charities Consortium emailed me back, because I emailed them saying, yes, he did consult, but he didn't listen to a word we said. They have been very, very firm in their response, saying we were consulted, but he took no advice whatsoever from us. Everything we said, he rejected. So every time they say they've consulted with disability charities, they haven't, or they have done, but they haven't taken any notice of it. So also the concessions, which are, let's face it, purely political to save humiliation, were also done without consulting disability charities. So, I mean, I just don't get it. I do try and listen to the government. When they bring something out that's good, I will listen to it, but this is complete rubbish. It isn't going to save any money. They haven't consulted us. They've blown apart every commitment in their manifesto. And it won't work. It just won't work. There are no economic foundations underneath it. It's what I've always described as policy-based evidence that they found, rather than producing evidence-based policy, and that always fails. And the people it will fail, we won't be noticed till we're dead, because we don't mean anything. MPs are being forced to vote without the information they require, and that vote, the third reading, is going to be on the 9th of July. So there's one day on committee stage, and it normally takes months. They're forcing it through on the 9th of July.
Wow. So Tuesday is a vote, but there'll be another one as well.
Yes, Tuesday is the second reading, and at that point they will, I quote, debate it, but they won't have time to do it. Everybody in Parliament is saying, oh, we'll have time to debate and dig into the details. No, you won't, because actually immediately after that there will be a committee stage, which will be less than a day, and then the final vote is on the 9th. So unless MPs reject it now, nobody has any problem with them going away, looking at it properly as all scrutiny on. It won't even go to the House of Lords, so it'll just go through, and then it'll be a money bill, and it'll be forced through as a money bill. So the Lords, who are actually up in arms, will not even get to see it. So unless MPs actually find their spines, which a lot of them did and are, and I'm extraordinarily glad about that, but unless they say, go away and think about it, nobody's saying we shouldn't look at the welfare bill because it isn't working. But it's not working for us because we're not getting enough money. The 200,000 that they say they want to get into, say, are ready for employment, that figure's extrapolated from a survey done to which there was only a 21% response rate, which makes it statistically unviable. And that 200,000 is extrapolated from 171 people who said they might be able to work if they had the right support. That's where that figure comes from. It is smoke and mirrors. And unless they stop it and make them go away and think about it, which is nobody will object to, and consult as they should consult, then if they don't vote it down, we've had it.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you, Fingers. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm just going to bring on Jen Coles, who's not been on spoken about this before, as far as I know. And one aspect of this that I've detected is that lots of people who are disabled have taken up campaigning on this particular issue and have become more politicized as a result of it. But what's your take on what's going on, Jen?
I just wanted to say, to start with, I have nerve damage. So if I lie down off camera after this, that is why I vanished off screen. So yeah, I mean, we are seeing people come into politics who haven't been in politics before. I think it's just because it just feels really nonsensical. To me, PIP is a really sensible benefit. 500,000 people on PIP actually work. And I have a friend near me, she's a teaching assistant, and basically her PIP goes on crutches, braces, she's got a degenerative condition, physiotherapy, taxis to get to the school if she's having a flare-up. I also have a friend who's partially sighted who spends PIP on things like magnifying software for her laptop so she can work. So that's 500,000 people who will find it harder to work. And then those of us, including me, who don't work because of our disabilities, the majority of us who can't work, we have to employ carers. So I employ a lady, she's a widow, she runs a cleaning business, and she does some extra hours for me using my PIP. And that has got her through the cost of living crisis and kept her probably off other support. Then there's the fact that PIP is often spent on, like early interventions. So for example, if somebody's got cognitive difficulties, learning difficulties, paying a carer to help them manage their medication is like 20, 50 times more cost effective than them accidentally taking an overdose and ending up in hospital. And it's also just the fact that every other time, 2016 and I think it was 2012, that they have tried to cut disability benefits, they've predicted these huge savings. They've only made tiny fractional savings, and then they've ended up spending more than that on legal fees and additional costs to the NHS. So I feel like it's just the illogicalness of it all that has made me step into politics, really, because it feels like you look at that and it's so sensible, and you think you can't square it, and you think the only reason they must be doing this is kind of scapegoating us, playing to certain newspapers, and basically they're ignoring our reality. Also, the health element of universal credit, it costs an average, just like average, of £1,000 more a month to be disabled, and PIP doesn't come close. So if you've got no other source of income, then the universal health credit top up is really essential. And I feel like there's nothing to be cut, like there's this rhetoric where they're saying the most vulnerable will be protected and those who can work will be supported into work. I mean, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation has said only 3 to 5% of people can actually benefit from that back to work support. So that's pretty small. Then who decides who is the most vulnerable? This point thing doesn't decide who is the most vulnerable, because I know someone in the disability community with motor neuron disease. He's 50 and he gets 2 points in 5 categories. I know somebody who is partially sighted who gets 2 points in each of 4 categories. So it's not going to sort of take away these somehow lesser disabled people. There aren't lesser disabled people on PIP. There's nothing to cut, basically, without having ridiculous knock-on effects.
Yeah. I just find the whole thing appalling, but I want people to hear the arguments, and also it's interesting that people are taking up politics who weren't involved before. I mean, we spoke about that as well. I'm going to bring on Carol Vincent, who we all know on the show, but as a reminder about Carol, you were actually arrested at the at DPAC protest a month or so ago, weren't you, Carol?
I was indeed, and I was so incensed at this decision because, as some people well know, I think this was planned all along. I believe Liz Kendall, Bridget Phillipson, or whatever her name is, and Starmer, along with Rachel Reeve, let's not forget she's holding the purse strings, realised that there was probably going to be a bit of dissent over this massive cuts to disability benefits after the winter fuel cut as well. This attack on poor and maybe less able, because they don't have the environment in which they can be more able. As Jen just said, people can be able to do things much more than they are if they have a lift up to do so. And that's what our welfare state was set up to do. When we're a bit down, it's a safety net to help us up so that we can continue to do as others do as long as possible. I've been filling in these forms for 36 years because my son was born with potentially life-threatening conditions as well as neurodivergent conditions. And they've got longer, more complex. They try to trip you up. They've all been outsourced. All the assessments are outsourced. It is harder and harder and harder. They take absolutely no notice of GP letters, which you're now having to pay for. I advise people to get the consultation notes, which are free under the patient charter. But the reason I was so incensed was that I thought he's going to do this because he knows there's going to be a bit of a rebellion. But I don't believe they realised how big the rebellion was. But I think their plan all along was to actually just leave people to be reviewed every couple of years who are on PIP as they are. We've never mentioned attendance allowance either, which is for people of pensionable age, but they actually lose the mobility element of it anyway. They only get the daily living. They don't get anything for mobility. And I suspect that's because they never have really. I suspect that's because there's an expectation that older people will somehow have less mobility at some point in their lives. When we get to the tribunals, one of the things that happens is the decision of the DWP is overturned. and we win on about 86% of cases over the last 5 years. I've won, and I'm going many, many more times. But the courts are overwhelmed. They are taking longer and longer to deal with people. In the meantime, people don't get the money and they don't get the assistance that they need. You know, they've either been refused or they get very low points and struggle. People don't understand. Majority of the population, unless you know somebody with a health condition or a disability, and it may be that they're disabled temporarily. I always think of Kadina Cox, who's a Paralympian. And if people saw the Paralympics, one of the things that happened to her was she thought she was ready to do the cycle race in the velodrome, but then couldn't stay on her bike. So with all that training, even with all that training, even with all that money put into her and the sponsorship and everything, if she has an off day because of her multiple sclerosis, it all comes crashing down. And once the Paralympics is over, she is just an ordinary person again, unless she can get sponsorship. She is not a superhuman. Paralympians are not superhumans. They are humans living with disabilities and health conditions. And they are expected to do super things. And I think he shot himself in the foot because Meg Hillier MP's, or Dame, whatever her name is, MP, is going to back this amendment, and probably 50 or 60 more MPs will rebel. But it won't be enough to stop it going through to the next reading and being passed. And it's an absolute shame. It will lead to a two-tier benefit system for PIP.
Paula Peters has come on. Are you there, Paula?
Morning, Crispin, and morning, everyone.
Now, look, Paula, I'd really like to hear what your view is on MPs who've changed their mind from voting against to now supporting the government. What would your message be to those MPs who are thinking of actually backing the government on this two-tier amendment?
They're sellouts is the simple answer to that. They're going to sell disabled people out and cause massive division in the disabled community over these sham concessions. Let's call them what they are. And also to say that they will impact on existing claimants if you have a change of circumstances after November 2026. Your health condition deteriorates or improves, you will be impacted by the 4-point rule. If your PIP stops and reinstated after November 2026, you will be assessed under the 4-point rule. If you win your tribunal, you will then be, your review will be under the 4-point rule. And we've still got 500,000 disability living allowance claimants who will be impacted by the 4-point rule. It's important to stress this. You know, when we've had a lot of disabled people online said, "Are we going to be safe? It's not going to be impact on us." That's not true. We shouldn't be falling for the division tactics. We need to be united on this and say to the government, we're not going to take this. But also a clear message to MPs. You vote for this bill on Tuesday, we're coming for you. We will launch the campaign that day in every constituency, and we will be there for the next 4 years in those constituencies until we get those MPs out. Because I'll tell you now, we're not going to put up with it.
I mean, the thing is, I tried to contact one of the MPs who supported one of the so-called rebel MPs, and they haven't got back to me on talking on this. Like, they're going to vote with it, and I think that's shameful because they were saying in tweets that it's not right that people who can't go to the toilet without being accompanied should lose their PIP, but they're quite happy for people who can't go to the toilet unaccompanied after 2026 to lose PIP. So their morality is totally suspect. It's all about looking like they care for disabled people, and that is even worse in a way, isn't it? The kind of dishonesty of it.
Let's be clear about this. Rachel Reeves said back in 2015, when she was the Shadow Secretary of State for the DWP, that when the Labour government got in, they were going to be tougher on on welfare than the Tories. So let's be absolutely clear what their agenda was right from the get-go, okay? And that, you know, they've always had this underline, oh, disabled people should be at work, and, you know, and all the, you know, when Tony Blair tried to go after disability living allowance back in 1997. So the Labour government are no different from the Tories where the welfare state's been concerned. Let's be clear on this. I want to bring up what people need to do. We need to now continue every second of the next few days. Email your MP, call them, write to them, put them under severe pressure, crash their inboxes, right? Just really put them under pressure, but also give them a warning. They vote for these cuts, they sell us out, we're coming for them. And they will be toast in their communities. And that goes for councillors as well who support them. We're coming for them. They vote, they support these cuts, they come out and speak about it, we're coming for them, and we will make sure they lose their seats. It's no good people, allies, speaking on these programmes saying, oh, we support you. We need to physically see it now.